Welcome to the Universal Tech Units podcast.
Great to be here.
Have you ever noticed how quickly the digital landscape shifts beneath our feet? It feels like 1 minute, an app or a feature is just part of your daily routine, you rely on it.
And the next, poof. It's either totally different or maybe just gone.
Exactly. It's like a constant reminder that, in tech, change isn't just coming, it is the baseline.
It really is. And these shifts, they're often about progress, right? But they can definitely leave you scratching your head, wondering what just happened or what's next, especially with tools you use every single day.
Totally. And that feeling, that constant evolution, that's exactly what we're getting into in this deep dive. We're focusing on a pretty big pivot happening inside the ChromeOS world, the move away from Chrome apps, remember those, towards progressive web apps, PWAs, and also Android apps.
Yeah, a significant shift.
So we've gone through a bunch of sources, articles, some deep research, even some pretty lively Reddit threads.
Oh, yeah, people have opinions.
They do. And our mission here is basically to pull out the key bits, the important stuff, to help you understand the why, the when, and the how of this whole transition. Think of it as a shortcut to getting up to speed on where ChromeOS is heading.
Right. It's like mapping out a city that's under construction.
Right.
We're pointing out the old buildings coming down, that's the Chrome apps, and highlighting the new, more modern stuff going up, PWAs and Android apps.
It really is the end of an era for Chrome apps.
Definitely signals a move towards more flexible, more powerful solutions, both web-based and Android.
Okay, so let's unpack this. First things first. The why. Why this big shift away from Chrome apps? What were they, and I guess why didn't they stick around?
Sure. So Chrome apps were kind of Google's early attempt, to make websites feel more like installed applications. There were these lightweight things you got from the Chrome Web Store, running inside Chrome, but maybe feeling a bit more separate than just a website tab.
Right, I remember using a few, but like our sources pointed out, they never quite caught on in the same way browser extensions or just plain websites did. They felt a bit stuck in the middle.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. Not quite as powerful as a native desktop app, but sometimes more clunky than just opening a web page. Was it the use cases? Maybe developer buy-in?
What do you think held them back?
Well, part of it was probably their limitations. They were, at their core, glorified web pages in a dedicated window. Often didn't offer enough extra punch to justify being separate, and developers had to build specifically for that Chrome app platform.
Ah, right. Not just standard web tech.
Exactly. Which wasn't nearly as attractive as building on open web standards, which is what PWAs are all about. So Chrome apps, good idea, maybe, but the purpose wasn't quite clear enough, and they just didn't get that critical mass.
So that leads us to Google's reason for the change. Keep up with the changing times and improve user experience by focusing on progressive web apps. Our sources seem to agree this was a no-brainer for most. Why so obvious?
Well, it just made a lot of strategic sense. PWAs build on the open web. That gives developers way more flexibility, much broader reach. They use the web technologies everyone already knows. So a single code base can work across loads of platforms: Android, iOS, Windows, Mac, and of course, ChromeOS. That's huge for developers.
Yeah, it cuts down on work significantly, I bet.
Totally. And you get cool stuff like offline capability, system integration, bringing that directly to the web app experience. For Google, it was about embracing the web's strengths and pushing them further.
Okay, but here's something interesting. Even though Chrome apps are fading, that chrome.apps page, it's not actually vanishing. It got redesigned.
Yeah, it did. It's kind of clever, actually. Its new job is to be a central hub for shortcuts. Not just PWAs, but also regular web apps you save using Chrome's Create a Shortcut feature.
Oh, okay.
So it's still useful, even for people on Windows or Mac using Chrome. It gives you that familiar launcher feel for all your installed web stuff.
Gotcha. So it's evolving, not just dying off. All right, we've covered the why. Let's get into the specifics. The when and who. When is this official sunset happening for Chrome apps?
It's a phased approach, not a sudden cutoff. It starts formally in July 2025. And the absolute final end-of-life date is way out in October 2028.
Wow, okay. That's quite a long runway. Gives people time to adapt, I suppose.
Definitely, they've planned it out.
Can you walk us through the main milestones then?
Sure. So July 2025, that's tied to ChromeOS version M138. That's the last version where users can install new Chrome apps themselves. And for organizations, admin-installed kiosk apps. They get disabled by default then.
Disabled by default, but admins can turn them back on.
Temporarily, yeah. through the Google Admin Console. Then fast forward to July 2026 with M150. That's the end of kiosk mode support for Chrome apps, though if you're on the long-term support channel, LTS, you get a bit longer until April 2027 for that.
Okay. And the final stages.
All right, so February 2027, that's M156. Admin-installed apps running in regular user sessions get disabled by default. Again, policy override is possible for a bit, but then February 2028 with M168. That's it. Curtains for all Chrome apps. No exception.
No exceptions.
Well, unless you count the LTS users, who get until October 2028. But functionally, Feb 28 is the hard stop.
That seems pretty clear-cut. Google's expectation seems to be that organizations should have moved on by then.
Yeah, they've been pretty explicit. While there was some extended support for enterprise initially, the message now is clear. Everyone's organization or tech team should have been focusing on building or selecting replacement PWAs.
They certainly gave a long heads up.
They really did. Plenty of time to plan and execute.
Okay, so that covers why it's happening and when it's all winding down. Now, let's talk about the critical part, the how. How are PWAs really stepping up? What makes them the preferred solution on ChromeOS now?
Well, Google frames PWAs as basically the best way to deliver your web app for ChromeOS. They're meant to be treated like first-class citizens on the platform. Meaning,
they show up in the launcher like any other app. You can pin them to the shelf. They integrate much more deeply with the OS itself, just like you'd expect from a traditional installed app.
so what makes a web app become a PWA that can do all that on ChromeOS? What are the key ingredients?
Okay, first big one, installability. A PWA needs what's called a valid web app manifest. It's like a little config file telling the browser how the app should look and behave when installed.
Right.
And it needs to meet Chrome's install criteria. You can actually check this using tools like Lighthouse. That's a Google tool that audits your site, gives you pointers. And here's a key thing for ChromeOS, the install prompt. It shows up right in the address bar, the omnibar, without needing a bunch of prior clicks or engagement from the user. Makes installing super easy.
Wow, less friction.
Exactly. And naturally, having a good, unique icon, including what they call a maskable icon, so it looks good everywhere, that's important too.
Okay, installability makes sense. What about offline? That was sometimes a selling point for the old Chrome apps, wasn't it? It was, yeah. And while it's not strictly required for a PWA to be installable, having some offline functionality is really recommended. It helps it feel like a traditional app.
So what's the minimum?
The minimum expectation is just a basic custom offline page. So instead of the ugly browser, your offline screen, the PWA shows its own helpful page. That's done using something called a service worker, which pre-caches the page.
Okay, better than nothing.
Much better. But you can go further. Developers can use the cache storage API to store lots of data offline, or IndexedDB for more complex database stuff. It lets the app be genuinely useful, even without a connection.
That service worker thing sounds important.
It's key. It's like a background script acting as a proxy between the app and the network. Handles caching, push notifications, background sync, lots of powerful stuff.
Right. Now, thinking about Chromebooks, so many have touchscreens now, even styluses. How do PWAs handle that? Are they touchable?
That's a huge consideration. Yeah, Google pushes developers to use the Pointer Events API. It's designed to handle all inputs, mouse, finger, stylus, with one set of code. Much cleaner than juggling separate touch start and mouse up events,
Simpler is good.
Definitely. And for things like drawing apps, there's a technical trick, a desynchronized hint for the canvas. Basically, it makes drawing feel super smooth and low latency, like drawing on paper.
Oh, nice. That responsive feel is critical for creative stuff.
Absolutely. And it ties into design, too. Developers should use feature detection. Check. If touch is available, don't just assume based on screen size.
Good point.
Make sure buttons and things have a minimum target size so they're easy to tap accurately. Treat hover effects as an extra, not essential, because touch doesn't have hover. And build in common touch gestures, like pinch to zoom. Makes it feel native.
This sounds like a really serious effort to bridge the gap between web and native apps. Is this part of something bigger at Google?
It is, yeah. It falls under Project Fugu, that's F-U-G-U, like the pufferfish. It's the code name for the Chromium Web Capabilities project. The whole goal is to add powerful new APIs to the web platform, letting web apps do things only native apps could do before.
Like what kinds of things?
Oh, stuff like better file system access, interacting with USB devices, improved notifications, all while trying to keep the web's safety and cross-platform nature intact.
Sounds ambitious. How far along is Project Fugu?
It's ongoing. These new capabilities are in various states of completeness. Some are pretty well established, others are just starting out. Getting them working everywhere across all browsers and platforms, that can be a multi-year process. It takes time.
Okay, so PWAs are clearly a huge focus, but they're not the only replacement, right? Android apps are also a big part of ChromeOS now.
Definitely the other major pillar, yeah. You can download apps directly from the Google Play Store onto some Chromebooks. Huge library available there.
Some Chromebooks.
Yeah, compatibility varies a bit by model. And if it's a work or school device, your admin might need to specifically enable the Play Store first.
Right, makes sense. And if I have an Android phone, do all my apps just appear in my Chromebook?
No, not automatically. You generally have to go into the Play Store on the Chromebook and download them again. And like I said, some might not be compatible. Also, usually the Play Store is tied to the first Google account signed into the Chromebook.
Ah, okay. Good to know. How's the actual experience using them? Can you resize them, use a keyboard?
Yeah, the experience is pretty good now. They show up in the launcher just like PWAs. You can usually resize them. There are modes like tablet, phone, or just resizable. And for games, yeah, keyboard and mouse controls are often supported, sometimes with visual overlays you can customize.
Cool. What about permissions and data? Can I control what Android apps access?
Yep, just like on your phone. After installing, you can go into settings and change app permissions for things like location, microphone, storage, etc.
And app data, does it back up?
Usually, yes. Chromebooks generally automatically back up and restore Android app data. So if you switch Chromebooks, your app settings and data can often come along, which is super convenient. You can manage those settings too.
Okay. Yeah. Any privacy things to keep in mind?
A couple of standard things. Apps can access your downloads folder if you let them, use Bluetooth.
Yeah.
If you click a link in an Android app, it'll open in a regular Chrome tab, not an incognito one. And like on Android phones, Google collects some diagnostic and usage data if you opt in to use the Play Store. Standard stuff, really.
And Google's nudging developers to make these apps work well on the bigger screens, right?
Exactly. They actively encourage developers to optimize Android apps for Chromebooks, thinking about different screen sizes, keyboard input, all that jazz.
Okay, we've covered the tech, the timelines, but what about the people actually using this stuff? How is this whole transition landing with users, especially those who really relied on the old Chrome apps?
Yeah, that's where it gets really interesting and honestly a bit divided. Looking at those Reddit threads, you see some strong feelings. Users like Background Jello 221, they definitely see it as a loss. They called the transition frustratingly incomplete.
Frustratingly incomplete.
Yeah.
What were their main pain points?
They pointed specifically to things like legacy tools, specialized kiosk mode applications, and certain offline productivity software, stuff heavily used in education, some businesses, and for accessibility needs.
Ah, okay, so niche but critical uses.
Exactly. And those users are asking for things like better transition tools, more support for developers making the switch, or maybe even pushing the deadlines back again.
I can see that. If a tool you depend on is going away and the replacement isn't quite there yet, that's tough.
It absolutely is. It highlights the real-world friction of these big platform shifts. But yeah, there's another side to it.
Yeah.
Other users, like Null 11.5, push back a bit. They argue Google has already extended the support timeline by several years.
Right. We saw those dates stretch out.
Yeah. And they also make the point that sometimes it's the software vendors who drag their feet, waiting till the last possible minute to update their apps. So it's not always just on Google.
That classic tension, isn't it? Platform pushes forward, ecosystem tries to keep up. Who moves first?
Pretty much. It's complex.
Are there any workarounds or alternatives for people really stuck needing those old Chrome app functions?
Well, one suggestion that popped up was something called NWJS. It's apparently a way to sort of package Chrome apps to run natively outside the browser. Might work for some very specific cases.
Interesting.
Also, it's worth remembering that many major apps like video conferencing tools, Zoom, for example, now have perfectly good versions that just run in a modern web browser, or they have an Android app. So the need for a specific Chrome app format is often less critical than it used to be.
True. And for the real power users.
There's always Crossroads, the Linux environment on ChromeOS.
Yeah.
Lets you run full desktop Linux apps. Though, as the sources mentioned, it still has some quirks, like camera support isn't fully integrated yet.
Gotcha. So this whole situation, it leads to bigger questions about ChromeOS's direction, doesn't it? Some people see mixed signals from Google lately.
Yeah, that definitely came up. On one hand, you see Google heavily promoting these new premium and capable Chromebook Plus laptops, Really high-end hardware sometimes.
Right, with fancy ARM processors, dedicated AI chips, that 50 TOPS NPU thing.
Exactly. And rolling out AI and Gemini-based features right into the OS, that feels like a big investment in ChromeOS as a powerful platform.
Right. On the other hand, people observe Google replacing key parts of the ChromeOS software stack with Android code, which feels like, well, like it's blurring the lines.
Mhm.
And then you hear about the next version of Android, Android 16, potentially getting a major new desktop mode feature, kind of like Samsung DeX.
Oh, interesting.
Which makes you wonder, could Android itself become a viable Chrome OS replacement in many ways down the line? It definitely sends mixed signals about the long-term plan. Is Chrome OS distinct, or is it slowly merging with Android? It really does feel like an open question about the future of Chrome OS as a platform, especially given Google's history, you know? They tend to go back and forth on tablet strategies, desktop strategies.
It's true. The path forward isn't always a straight line, even for the giants. They experiment, they pivot.
Well, this has been quite a journey through the changing landscape of Chrome OS. Let's try to wrap this up for everyone listening. The core message seems clear. Chrome apps are phasing out.
Yep, they're on their way out.
And the future is firmly built on progressive web apps and Android apps. This isn't just about getting rid of old tech. It's really a strategic move towards making experiences on Chrome OS more powerful, more integrated, more flexible.
Exactly. Even if, there are definitely some bumps in the road during the transition for certain users and organizations.
In the bigger picture, it feels like Google's vision is evolving, aiming for this really connected, app-like feel that works seamlessly within the browser and across their different operating systems. It really speaks to how capable the web platform itself has become.
Totally agree. The web can do so much more now.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a final thought to chew on. As these lines keep blurring between web apps, native apps, even the operating systems themselves, what does a desktop experience even mean anymore? And how much of our digital future is actually going to end up living right inside the browser?
Definitely something to think about, is everything keeps changing around us.
See you again in the next episode of This Tech Podcast.